on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:06 here on this Friday morning in the nation's capital. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in 30 minutes, William BOCK is a lawyer for Riley Gaines suing the NCAA over their discriminatory transgender athletics policies. 8:15, Ian Pryor, our pal in Loudoun County, about how the Loudoun County school system there, the school board is going to turn off the public speaker camera. You know, because transparency is so important. Then 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News Channel. I'm Larry O'Connor, along with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Yeah, good morning.
And let's make way now for the 74th governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, who is now embroiled in a battle royale with Democrats in Richmond. So, of course, we want to get an update on that. Governor Youngkin, good to speak with you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Patrice and Larry. I hope you're having a blessed Friday. And yeah, we're embroiled in a budget battle in Richmond. But let me just be clear, it's one that we have to prevail on. I mean, they sent me a backwards budget, a budget that increases taxes and bills for Virginians by $2.6 billion. We spent the last 2 years providing tax relief of $5 billion. And in 60 days, they turn around and send me a budget to raise taxes by $2.6 billion. We are not going backwards. We are moving forwards. I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to make sure that Virginians continue to keep more of their hard-earned money in their pockets.
Well, and Governor Youngkin, thank you for defending the pockets of Virginians, because inflation still has not come down to their pre-pandemic levels. But just to get a little bit deeper into this, the recently passed budget bill, talk about the taxes and specifically this new sales tax on digital goods. Talk about all of this and what that means for Virginians and why you're so ardent in ensuring that, you know, it doesn't become a financial burden for Virginians.
Well, first of all, inflation not only isn't coming down, it's going back up. And record inflation has impacted Virginians and Americans in an unprecedented way, and people are living paycheck to paycheck. On top of that, we have demonstrated over the last 2 years that we can, in fact, reduce tax burdens in Virginia and increase critical investments in education, law enforcement, and behavioral health. And all that the progressive left wants to do is put their hand in people's pockets and take more of your hard-earned money. And the reality is the way that economies are built, strong economies, is with more jobs, more people working, and therefore more tax receipts to fund critical investments that allow you then again to reduce tax burdens. We know this works because we've been doing it for the last 2 years. We have 200,000 more people working today than we did 2 years ago. It's record job growth. We have the most people working in the Commonwealth of Virginia than in the history of the state. We're at a 12-year high in labor participation. And by the way, that gives us the resources to make record investments in education, law enforcement, and behavioral health. And so to turn around and in 60 days send me a budget that imposes a $2 billion tax increase on hardworking Virginians. And by the way, the most regressive kind of tax increase. Let's go ahead and tax people on things they use every single day, where the hardest working Virginians all of a sudden are having to pay out of their pockets their hard-earned wages. And then they want to intrude on our electricity bills and impose $600 to $800 million of new charges on our electricity bills in order to go fund pet projects. I mean, this is what the liberal left does, is they think it's their money, not your money. And that's why I was hired. I was hired to get this right, and we're going to get it right.
Governor Youngkin, you worked out a historic agreement for a brand new sports arena in Alexandria. You bent over backwards to work with the Democrats who are in charge in most of the major municipalities in Northern Virginia. Alexandria Democrats were on board with this, and it all worked out perfectly until the Democrats in the Senate took a personal vendetta against you on this thing and tried to spike it. Are they playing politics because they're just trying to stop you from having an achievement here? Or is this actually more maybe intrigue between Southern Democrats in Virginia who actually in their heart hate Northern Virginia Democrats too? What is the bottom line here on why this thing can't happen, since you actually worked out sort of a bipartisan way forward? And are you still trying to make this happen?
Well, yes, we are still trying to make this happen because it's a spectacular opportunity. It's once in a lifetime for two professional sports teams to move at the same time. It generates $12 billion of economic contribution to the Commonwealth, 30,000 new jobs, and that economic contribution spreads over the entire state.
So what do you think's behind the opposition?
Transportation. I firmly believe that the Senate has decided that they, in fact, don't want economic development, I guess. I mean, here we go. You know, there's two visions for Virginia. My vision, which is more jobs, more opportunity, more prosperity, make sure we reduce the cost of living, and we invest in those critical elements that support that. Their vision for Virginia, candidly, is let's tax everybody as high as we possibly can. Let's put a pot shop on every corner, and let's put a slot machine in every 7-Eleven. And it's just two visions for Virginia that I think really highlight the fact that Virginians hired me to do a job because people know that we have the right path now, and I just can't let the other happen. Listen, the challenges that we've seen in the Senate with regards to approving this monumental project are clear because the House did the work. The House of Delegates hired outside help. They advised them. They found it to be a spectacular opportunity, and they passed legislation to move forward. The Senate did no work. They didn't do anything. They didn't even investigate the opportunity like the House. They could have used the House's work, and they chose not to. That is so unfair to Virginia, and I worry that it really damages our overall business climate, where a great economic opportunity is theoretically held hostage over politics. Yeah. Let's press forward and grow jobs, grow opportunity, grow incomes so that Virginians can really realize the prosperity that they deserve.
Well, you know, Governor Youngkin, just to shift gears a little bit and quickly, but crime and in particular immigration are top issues right now in politics and obviously top of mind.
I'm sorry,
for so
Patrice.
many...
Virginians don't care about the border immigration. That's what I was told by.
Well, that's what we heard
MSNBC.
From MSNBC host, right? So, Governor Youngkin, can you just talk about why it's so important for there to be cooperation with federal law enforcement in enacting immigration law and ensuring that people who are here legally and especially not committing crimes, particularly as dangerous crimes?
So those comments from those commentators were the most absurd thing I've ever heard. I cannot believe that there are people in this country that don't recognize the crisis that is not just at our border, but has turned every single state into a border state, a humanitarian crisis, a drug crisis, a national security crisis, and we deal with it every day in Virginia. On average, 5 Virginians die of fentanyl overdoses every single day. We have seen violence. And listen, our hearts are broken for Laken Riley's murder at the hands of an illegal immigrant. But we've also seen sexual assaults of minors in Virginia by illegal immigrants. And so we have to know who's here and who's not here. And for the federal government, for Joe Biden's open border policy to truly be turning our nation and the Commonwealth into a land of violence as opposed to safety means that we must lock arms and work together in order to secure the border, stop the flow of violent people into the Commonwealth and the country, and stop the flow of drugs. And we see it every single day. So we're working hard on this. I have to say that our collaboration in the Commonwealth in order to interrupt the drug trade has never been at a higher level. But this is a day-to-day combat. And the federal government's got to get it together. That's why, candidly, the election in 2024 is so important. And at the top of the list is we need strong leadership from our Republican nominee, Donald Trump, to secure our border. And yes, this impacts Virginia and every other state. And for MSNBC commentators to not even begin to recognize it and belittle it just shows you how detached they are from what is really affecting lives every day in Virginia and America.
2 more quick questions here, and the first one can be a real quick answer, Governor Youngkin. You just mentioned President Trump and how important this election is. Will you campaign with or for President Trump between now and Election Day?
Yeah, I came out immediately after he was clearly our nominee and endorsed him. I have said all along that I'll enthusiastically support the Republican nominee. Listen, we need strong leadership. Let's be clear. We need.
With you as governor,
leadership.
Virginia is in play, I think, and your presence campaigning for him in the Commonwealth could make a big difference.
Listen, we demonstrated in 2022, in 2021, inaugurated in 2022 that Virginians will elect a Republican statewide, and I think we have to go to work in order to do it again.
All right, and finally, you led the charge in the days after the October 7th terrorist massacre in Israel. You led the charge by putting executive directives out to ensure that anti-Semitism has no place in Virginia. I'd love for you to reflect on the stunning reversal by Senator Chuck Schumer yesterday, calling for Benjamin Netanyahu to be replaced there, something he's never done for the Hamas leadership in Gaza. Your response to Senator Schumer here?
It's just stunning. I mean, shocking. The biggest challenge, the biggest obstacle to peace in Israel is Hamas. They have over 100 hostages, still Americans being held.
Yes.
And we find ourselves at a moment where the complete lack of moral clarity on Israel's right in order to defend itself and rid itself of terrorists who took October 7th and put it in a date that will live in infamy. This is a complete demonstration of lack of moral clarity. It undermines America from around the world, and I'm truly stunned and shocked by it.
Thank you, Governor Youngkin. It's springtime.
Governor.
That means it's wine tasting season. Meredith and I will be out there representing you proudly and mostly soberly. So you can count on me.
Thank you. And I deeply appreciate your continued leadership. And I want to thank you for having me on this morning. Again, we've got a broken budget. We have got to fix it. It's backwards. And I'm not going to let taxes go up on Virginians. And we're going to go to work every day to deliver on the promises that I made to everyone when I was elected.
Keep the faith, Governor. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
7:18.
News is brought to you by New Look Home Design.
So much truth, you'll hope for traffic so you can hear it all on the Vince Colonnade Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
We got a lot out of Governor Glenn Youngkin there. Patrice Onwuka, good job, good questions, and lots of information from him. We'll see if it moves the needle anywhere. Meanwhile, sticking with Virginia, you'll remember over the course of many years how the Loudoun County school system and the school board there has sort of become an icon for the dysfunction of public schools in America, right?
Yes.
And it all started with those very important school board meetings where parents were able to speak their minds to their elected officials, speaking truth to power, where the voters could actually talk back to their representatives at the most intimate example of representative democracy at the school board. Brandon Michon, the shot heard round the world back in 2021.
Or get off the podium. Because you know what? There are people like me and a line of other people out there who will gladly take your seat and figure it out. It's not a high bar. Raise the freaking bar!
That changed everything. And from that moment on, the Loudoun County School Board represented something. And by the way, every single person on that school board that he was just talking to, yelling at, they're all gone now. They're all gone. They either resigned in disgrace, chose not to run again, or they have been defeated. That's what democracy looks like. So the Loudoun County School Board this week, they've decided to really react to this phenomenon. They have decided to turn the cameras off the podium. I kid you not. Here is Loudoun County School Board member April Chandler.
I will not support any efforts to turn the cameras back on. I'm open to changing the format in other ways, but turning the cameras back on now only invites and undermines the work of the school board and the transparency of the school board.
School board member Ann Donahue, though.
Turn the cameras back on to record everyone who comes up to speak, because I think, unfortunately, there has been a history of the last few years of people who are outspoken in this forum of later being harassed is a charged word with a specific legal definition, and I don't necessarily mean that specific legal definition, but
they've been harassed, even though there have been no actual legal proceedings with regard to harassment. And actually, it's true. People have been harassed. The parents have been harassed for speaking out. They've been harassed by the school board. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, Larry, remember the context of the parental uprising. It was 2021. 2020, kids were locked down, and suddenly parents were listening to all of the indoctrination that is coming through the textbooks and through the curriculums that the schools are teaching these kids. And suddenly the parents are saying, you know what, wait a minute, I want to stand up. I want to have my voice heard. I haven't been a presence, but you know what, I'm here now. Mama bears and Papa bears started showing up. And I think part of the reason why they want to shut off the cameras is because they don't want you to see the diversity of parents who are standing up. It is not just one type of parent, one gender, one race of parents. It is parents from many different religious backgrounds, parents from many different cultural backgrounds who are not willing to stand up, not willing to take anymore the indoctrination, the undermining of the values that they're teaching their kids at home, and the undermining of traditional ABCs and 1, 2, 3s in advance of these progressive, liberal, radical agendas. They do not want so many faces to be seen because it undercuts what they're promoting as inclusive and widespread acceptance of their ideas, and they are not.
Well said. Ian Pryor out in Loudoun County, who knows plenty about what's going on there. He's going to join us coming up at 8:15.
Can't wait, yeah.
It's 7:24.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:37 on a super busy Friday morning. You just missed Governor Glenn Youngkin. If you did miss it, make sure you download the podcast so you can catch it. It was pretty good. Coming up at 8:15, Ian Pryor, Loudoun County, and 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News, Larry O'Connor, Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Larry.
Happy Friday to you. And your colleague at Independent Women's Forum, Riley Gaines, is in the news again. She announced yesterday that she and 15 other female athletes are suing the NCAA over the transgender athletics policies. Her lawyer, William BOCK, joins us now. Counselor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Larry. It's good to be with you this morning.
So the NCAA, I'm guessing, is just going to say, listen, we're a private organization. We can do this if we want. And, oh, by the way, Title IX, as now reinterpreted by the Biden administration, supports our move, right? Or wrong?
I expect that's what they will say. Unfortunately, even before the Biden administration misinterpreted Title IX, the NCAA was discriminating against women. And that's exactly what's happening here. They're not complying with the real meaning and intent of Title IX. And so we had to bring this matter to court. And really, it was the 16 courageous young women, courageous whistleblowers that just said enough is enough.
Agreed. Yeah, swimmers, track athletes, volleyball athletes. And usually when it reaches the point of lawsuit, there have been documented attempts to resolve this issue. Is that the case here? Were there attempts to work with the NCAA and resolve the issue? And if so, what was their response?
You know, it's really amazing that over the last several years, there have been numerous efforts by these young ladies to reach out to the NCAA, and they have been given the stiff arm. I mean, you think about college sports, you think about the Heisman Trophy, but the stiff arm that the Heisman Trophy is giving, it's a good look on the Heisman Trophy. It's not a good look on NCAA President Charlie Baker, but he's giving the stiff arm to women.
Well, can we talk a little bit about the lawsuit, in particular, kind of the arguments that are being made, but also, what is the outcome that you would like? Is there some sort of injunctive relief, or what are you hoping to get, or what are you hoping that the courts will decide?
We are ultimately asking for the court to just say the NCAA cannot continue to enforce this discriminatory policy. That the category of women's sport means it's for women. You have a male category and a women's category, and because of the extreme differences in performance and athletic attainment that and strength, power, and development of their bodies are just different. There need to be separate categories. So we're asking the court to do what Title IX says, which is provide equal opportunities for men and women. And of course, we also want to go back and see the record books reformed as well, so that the titles and placements that were taken away from women unfairly are restored.
Very good.
We are speaking with William BOCK, lawyer for Riley Gaines, a brand new announced lawsuit yesterday, 16 athletes suing, female athletes suing the NCAA over their transgender policies. I saw this from Senator Mike Lee. Apparently, Senator sent a questionnaire to the president of the NCAA about these policies, and one question stuck out to me, page 18. Senator Lee said, did you do any sort of research or study to find out what possible negative ramifications on female athletes this new policy would affect, and if so, what were the results of that research, and if not, why not? And the one sentence response was, no, we didn't do any sort of research or due diligence before we made this policy. I would think, Counselor, that would be valuable evidence for your lawsuit.
Yeah, Larry, isn't it incredible that the NCAA would institute a policy and not do any research into its effects? I mean, this is a dramatic change. You're letting men compete against women. What are the effects? Oh, we don't care. We're just going to do it. That's what the NCAA has done. And they are wrong on the science. There is a women's category for a reason, because scientifically, biologically, men and women are different, and
that's so crazy talk. Crazy talk. You might come on. Where'd you get your law degree?
Yeah. Well, I'm a Michigan Wolverine.
You should have led with that. Go Blue, my friend. Go Blue.
Absolutely, go Blue. So maybe we think a little differently in the Midwest, but some people are still thinking straight.
Just one final question going forward. I'm hopeful that this lawsuit prevails. And is this going to have to be the route when it comes to other athletic bodies? Is it going to take, series of lawsuits across the country hitting all of these different sports where women are being, frankly, discriminated against based on their sex to actually stop this this tidal wave?
Isn't it terrible that it would have to come to that? I mean, we ought to be able to just celebrate the fact that this week, as the NCAA women's swimming championships are coming up, rather than talking about what a woman means. But unfortunately, it may mean that because of these ridiculous policies, it may mean that we have to go to the courts, we have to enforce the law, we have to enforce Title IX. But what the NCAA has done in showing a disregard for women and discriminating against women, it should disqualify the NCAA from being a sport governing body. And frankly, it may need to be brought to Congress. I think Charlie Baker ought to be testifying before Congress next week about this discrimination against women.
When you win this lawsuit, you're going to have to come back, do a bit of victory lap. We already have the theme song for you.
To the victors valiant.
We are very excited to claim Hail to the Victors when you emerge victorious from this one, just like our national championship football team, right, Counselor?
Yeah, absolutely, Larry. It's a much bigger than one school or one state. This is about women across the country and their victory and their opportunity to be on the podium.
You're right, but Michigan, as long as you can make it about Michigan, we're going to do it. All right, thank you, Counselor. Great talking
Thank you so much, sir.
It is 7:40. Patrice Onwuka, or as you like to call it.
Friday.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be a Friday necessarily for Fani Willis down in Fulton County, because on a Friday you often get a news dump, and it's usually always a news dump that is favorable for Republicans and unfavorable for Democrats. That's why it should be interesting and noteworthy that Judge McAfee, the judge determining whether Fani Willis should continue as the a prosecutor and her office as the prosecutors of Donald Trump. He is set to make his announcement today on Friday. Here's what he said.
What can you tell us about the timing of your order on the Fulton DA disqualification issue?
So I made a promise to everybody. These kind of orders take time to write. I need to make sure I say exactly what I want to, and I plan to stick to the timeline I gave everyone.
So this week?
Should be out tomorrow.
That was yesterday when he said it should be out tomorrow. So today's the day that we'll get the announcement as to whether Fani Willis should continue. What do you? I don't understand. He said I want to make sure I say it the right way. What is there to say? I mean, the legal bar here, as Joe DeGenova tells us on a regular basis, is if there is an appearance of conflict, then the DA must be removed. There's well beyond an appearance of conflict. There's legitimate conflict here.
Well, there is. We don't need to go back into the tawdry details of Fani Willis and the special investigator she hired, who is her boyfriend.
We could if we wanted.
Well, you know, there is so much out there. But listen, I think that even if she is removed,
we're better than that here, Patrice.
We are sometimes, most of the time.
Really. I'm not.
Yeah, well, you know, on Fridays, I'd like to. We try to stay. We did give plenty of airtime to all that stuff they've got going on. But, I mean, the bigger deal, though, is if she is removed, and there's a huge likelihood that she will be, will the next this case will have to be moved. And who will take up this case? Are they willing to go after it? Because remember, she was pitched as the person to investigate extremely complex conspiracy racketeering cases that involve big kingpins of illegal activity. And if if the champion is out of the ring, then who's left to take the case? Well, will they be willing to stick their necks out there like she did? So, I mean, I think that's the bigger issue. Will this case continue? And if it doesn't, boy, talk about another domino falling against President Trump. Another domino against President Trump falling.
And all of the so-called co-conspirators, people who were, lawyers and advisors, those who haven't already copped a plea, that is, boy, I bet they'd like to take that one back.
I'm telling
meanwhile, up in Manhattan, the district attorney there, Alvin Bragg, is pushing for a delay to the start of the so-called hush money trial. It's not a hush money trial, actually. It's they're trying to criminalize making a non-disclosure agreement with an individual and receiving a payment, which would probably, criminalize behavior in politics and the media across the board. Andrew McCarthy has looked at this, said the delay sought is yet another indication of the strangeness of Bragg's case against Trump and its fundamental unfairness. Essentially, it's a matter of Trump lying to his checkbook, and it's metastasized now into 34 felony counts. It makes no sense at all, but of course it doesn't, because Andrew McCarthy is looking at this as a legal expert, which he is. This isn't a legal case. It's not a criminal case. It's a political operation. 7:53.